This is the One Piece Podcast, episode 515 for the week of Monday, April 16th, 2018. My name is Zach.
My name is Ed.
And my name is Alex.
And on today's show, we have a very special guest, translator for One Piece in Weekly Shonen Jump. We have Stephen Paul with us. How's it going, Stephen?
Hey guys, I guess I still have a job because there's another chapter this week.
Yeah, what's with that? I thought we were done podcasting, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
no,
we clearly recorded the last episode last week. Everybody listened to the disclaimer.
Yeah, and
it's the pre-taped call-in show.
We also have our editor-in-chief, Kelly, with us. How's it going, Kelly?
Good. My jet lag is finally gone, so I'm very happy.
Oh, yeah. So you were in Japan for a while.
I was in Japan and then went to Boston right after.
So very similar places.
Very similar.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, sure. So it was a very manga-centric trip this time. I went for the second edition of the Shonen Jump anniversary exhibition in Roppongi. So I've managed to see the first one, which was really cool. A lot of manga I wasn't really familiar with. But the second one, being the 90s, it was a lot of the stuff that I read or at least watched the anime equivalent. So it was really nostalgic and great to see that.
Is that the exhibition that has like the original manga pages of a bunch of stuff?
It does, with notes, which I loved. And, it's one of those things where you realize just even how they pick a font and how they layer things. And the process is so much more in depth than I think we think about when we look at these completed weekly volumes every week. So it's really cool. It's so cool. And I'm hoping to make the third one, which starts in July. And that's the one that's going to have all the major One Piece stuff. This one did have Romance Dawn, though. It had 3 pages from Romance Dawn.
You should probably just get a timeshare in Japan at this point.
I would like to do that. But yeah, seeing those 3 pages from Romance Dawn was really, really great. I wanted to stare at them a lot longer than I had time for.
Well, there's always next time you're there.
That's true.
So before we get into the show, surprisingly, as we mentioned at the top, One Piece, the manga is still going on for some reason. And this week's chapter is chapter 901, Don't Let Even Death Stop You, which is the motto of this podcast. So we are looking forward to getting into that with the crew here. The anime is on this week, but it is off from our podcast this week. Sam, unfortunately got a little bit busy, professionally. It happens to all of us. So that'll be back, I think, a double anime recap, next week. So look forward to that.
It's a big couple of weeks. I watched the episode earlier today, and I'm excited for next week.
Is there any big news involved in any of the anime episodes?
Well, he certainly made a lot of faces in this week's episode.
That's perfect.
Testing my patience with how much I love Sanji.
No, I was talking about Morgan's.
Yeah, I think. Look, Kelly, we all have different loves in this series, and for most of us, it's big news Morgan's.
Still contemplating changing my profile picture to that one I tweeted earlier.
You kind of should. They have Straight On Simpsons as the Straight On One Piece with Big News Morgan's. Yeah.
Also makes an appearance in this chapter.
A Simpsons character?
Indeed.
No, straight-faced Morgan's.
Yeah, no, that's what I meant. I was referring to that. Okay, so there's that to look forward to. We also have on this episode some Piece Together and our trivia section, which we're naming different things every week, I think. What is it? Puzzle Pieces this week is what we're calling it?
Yeah, I like that one.
So if you have a name for the trivia segment, please let us know. It's ever changing. And I believe Steven is still in the lead on that, so stay tuned. We'll see where we are. So we got all that, but before we get into the show, want to mention, as always, please support us on Patreon at patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast. We hope to be making some changes there soon, just like additions, updates, some cool new stuff. But right now we have the latest video in the Alex and Steve Eat One Piece series, in which they eat expired One Piece food.
Yeah, it's all expired.
It's all expired.
All of it was expired. We waited too long to do the video, but it's still good.
I think it's even better.
It's just a little expired.
It's still good.
Still good.
So you could look forward to that. I have a few exclusive and outtake episodes that are due, so those will be up in the next week or so. It's been kind of hectic on my end, so apologies there. And Kelly, you have some news in the One Piece world that we should probably go through.
Sure.
Let's start out. What do you want? Shirts, music, or an amusement park? Which would you like to start with?
I'm going to start with amusement park because that's the one I'm looking at right now.
Okay.
So the Universal Studios Japan site just updated with the latest information for the One Piece premiere show for 2018. And if you're looking to go, the tickets will start to go on sale for VIPs on April 24th. And advanced web ticket sales will go on sale on April 27th.
How much are those, out of curiosity?
How much are they? I think with the conversion, it might be maybe like $50, $60. I forget exactly because you also have to pay for the park as well separately.
That's a pretty good deal.
So,
I thought it included the park. Never mind. It's
I
a
would
regular
say if you're going to go, you're probably going to spend like $100 to go for the day.
I mean, it's Universal Studios. That doesn't sound super unusual. Yeah.
But the one nice thing with regards to the premiere show, unlike a lot of the sites that are based in Japan, you don't need to enter a prefecture to actually buy a ticket. So you can actually go online and order those pretty easily if you're planning on going. I've been going for the past couple of years, and it's definitely worth the visit if you're already going to be there.
So okay, we started with the amusement park. So now we got shirts and music. Where do you want to go?
I'm going to go with music.
Okay.
So over the weekend, a new One Piece concert was announced, and it's called One Piece Ototage, episode of East Blue. And it's going to start August 12th, and it's going to be in Tokyo for a few weeks. And this is going to be sort of a multimedia performance. It's going to have live actors. And the music's actually going to be performed by people that are either in brass bands or marching bands or those types of ensembles. So it's a lot of horn instruments. So it's kind of like the marching band version, at least music-wise, of a lot of the One Piece songs. And it promises to cover the bulk of the East Blue and all the memorable moments. So tickets, I believe, are on sale for that already. And that site is also in English if you happen to be in Tokyo starting August 12th. So I listened to, I think I posted a rendition of We Are that they did. And it's, it's something you would expect that you might do if you did a marching band version, but it was really fun and upbeat.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so everyone's favorite shirts. And these are shirts that we could get. So that's the cool part here.
Oh, yeah.
So our Shonen Jump 50th anniversary shirts are going to start to go on sale. I believe next week is the first round. And they're going to be released in the store and online. And it's going to be, I think, 10 shirts a week or 12 shirts a week over a period of a couple weeks. So I think some of the One Piece ones are a little bit later on, but they'll have all those different T-shirts. There are children's and men's sizes, I believe. So between the two, there should be a pretty wide variety of sizes to choose from.
And are those Japanese sizes or American sizes?
From what I checked, it would be the American sizes. So based on what I read on the site.
Cool. Yeah.
But they sell out fast online. So I do recommend if you have a Uniqlo near you to go into the store.
Yeah. I've got 2 or 3 local now. So I've got a wealth of Uniqlo stores to pick from.
Uniqlo is also just like a good store in general. So
very true.
Yeah. You could get lots of stuff there. Any other thoughts before we get into this podcast?
How about this? Let's get into the podcast.
Wow, Alex, what a great thought. Let's do it. This is the manga recap for chapter 901. Don't let even death stop you! With a triple exclamation point there, so you know it's serious. What's going on the front page, Ed?
Well, this is the saga of the self-proclaimed Straw Hat Fleet, Volume 32, Hyruden, Buggy's Delivery Escapee List, Dr. Gerd of the New Giant Pirates. She got time-stopping powers or something?
Kurido.
Yeah. This is a female giant who has apparently never been around human-sized men before.
Now you say her name is Gerd when she is clearly Nami. I don't understand.
She looks more like Smoothie with that hair.
Nami with braids.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're just naming all characters that look similar anyway. Yeah, this is very prototypical Oda, which I'm disappointed at because not only is this a character I really enjoyed in Big Mom's flashback, but is it the first female giant we're seeing, or maybe second? We have not seen many. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
I thought we saw a bunch on Marineford, right?
I think we saw one or two.
I don't remember any of them being women, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
LaCroix, I believe, was one of them.
It was
you're
kind
right,
of telegraphed, I would guess, because she was like the cute little giant girl in Big Mom's flashback, right. And so it kind of makes sense. I think I know definitely for sure Greg has been expecting that there would be a sexy giant, girl, and this seems to line up with that, especially since she's around the same age as Big Mom, right?
That's
and
the crazy thing, yeah.
Because giants have an average lifespan of 300 years.
No,
right?
I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I'm just noting that that's kind of crazy that she's in her 60s.
Right.
Yeah, keep that in mind. Yeah.
That's just how giants be.
That's how that is. So, I mean, can you do the math and like figure out what age 63 would be in human years if it's 300? So it would be a third, right? I mean,
no, it'd be about a fifth. She'd be about 20, a little younger maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so she's not only does she look like Nami, but she's around the same age as Nami.
Basically, yeah.
Yep.
She's giant Nami, which I feel like there was a filler episode for. Right?
I mean, it's a little disappointing, but I've come to expect this with female characters that Oda wants people to think are sexy. Like, they all look the same.
Well, he did marry a Nami cosplayer, right? Is that correct?
No, it wasn't play.
Not
cosplay.
Coswork.
She was a professional.
Yeah.
Stage performer.
Costume work. Okay. We should probably get into the chapter.
Yeah.
Sure. Starting on Fluffy Island. Calling after Mama, and it's one of the minions is letting them know. Master Paraspero, she's back to the old mom, or I guess it's Paraspero. No, the minion sees Paraspero walking up to where Mama's body is, and then Paraspero's talking. She's back to the old Mama. What kind of cake did they bake? Never seen such bliss on her face before, Perorin. And man, if they didn't tell you it was cake, this would be quite the lewd scene. I mean, Mama, you're the
creamed. She got creamed at last.
It's all over her face, neck, and dress.
And the ground.
Yeah. And she destroyed that thing.
Okay, trying not to be an explicit podcast here.
All right. So Paraspero continues. Mama, you're the captain, so I'm going to give you a status report, all right? First of all, Bedge must be still nearby, and Mama is not listening at all. She's got hearts in her eyes. She's got cake all over her face. The happiness. Big Mom just knocked out from happiness. Back to Cacao Island, where there is a water spout over the water there. And the big ship is... I guess it looks a little surprised. Maybe that's just how it looks all the time.
I don't know if you could call that a water spout since it's just
it's
smoke.
just an explosion.
Yeah,
it's just it kind of looks like a water spout.
It does.
The way they
draw
the diagonal lines like that. That's the one I was looking at. So a ship is on fire in the water. And hold on. Okay, before we even answer the rest of these questions, what is this guy doing here? What is Charlotte Moscato, Minister of Gelato, doing back alive?
Guy Moscato.
So I was conflicted because I am a huge fan of Charlotte Moscato, Minister of Gelato, and seeing him back made me really happy. But then I remembered he should be dead. But then I remembered the title of this chapter, Don't Let Even Death Stop You. And I was right. It's telegraphed in the title, so I can't be that angry about it.
Well, they were dragging off his body to try and do something with him when Mama killed him, right?
They did say, remember every last second, or grab every last second, or something like that.
We've been doing this podcast for almost 9 years now, next month. Yes. You should know there's one thing that could stop death in its tracks, and it's on his body right now. And you know that answer? You know that answer, Ed? What's that answer?
Bandages. Yeah.
Bandages.
Bandages heal everything.
They do.
So I guess I guess that raises the question. So if they were just dragging his body away and he had lost, his soul or his lifespan or whatever, does that mean that he was basically just a vegetable, like he was still living, but there was no soul in him until
there are no vegetables in Big Mom's
back?
Kingdom. That's
no, that's where they took him. They took him to Veggie Island.
He's back from Veggie Island.
Oh man,
that's the prison island of Total.
Yeah,
that's what.
But is a homie in there now, or is it him?
It's him.
Well, he's making observations. He says, "Hang on, that's not right. That's not the Straw Hat Crew's ship." And Daifuku's like, "What?" Daifuku and Smoothie, and I think Cinnamon and also Compote are back there. Or no, it's the other Smoothie system. Yeah. Anyway, that's the end of that page.
If Charlotte Moscato, Minister of Gelato, were in a movie, it would be called The Diving Bell and the Buttercream.
Oh my god,
man! I don't know if anyone who listens to this show is going to get that.
I mostly get it as a Venture Brothers joke off of the reference that it was originally off of.
I know that movie only because I watched the Oscars that year.
It's a really good joke. Trust me.
Okay.
We were just talking about vegetables. You see,
Kelly.
Oh, okay. No, I got it.
So going to the next page, we see what's actually been burning. And that ship belongs to the Sun Pirates. When did that happen? Where have the Straw Hats gone? And we still see that the Jolly Roger is blubbing on the surface of the water there. And now we know where they went. A Wadatsumi holding his hands over his mouth is scurrying away. Hurry, Wadatsumi, take them far away. And you have a little bit of a flashback here where Wadatsumi asks, "Are you sure that's Fisher Tiger's legendary ship?" "Yes, do it." "Hurry, there's no time." So essentially he has swapped out Fisher Tiger's ship with the Sunny and shoved it in his mouth. And I hope he flosses, because that's really gross.
Just to say, I think that the blubbing in that first panel there is to show that Wadatsumi is racing away. You're supposed to connect the bubbles in that second panel.
I did not gather that. And we see the crew being shoved in there, and let's get out of here. Aye, with the blubbing of him speeding away. And they're underwater. I knew I saw something. That was the giant sea monk's hand.
Yeah.
She saw something, but she didn't want to say something. That's what.
See something, say something.
See something, don't say anything.
But, so we are to assume that the Sun Pirate ship is coded all the time, so that's why it was down there. We just couldn't see it.
Sure.
Or else he pulled it down there from the surface and then just popped it back up.
Right.
It's possible that it's also just a plot device that makes no sense.
Hey.
I mean, it makes some sort of sense. I mean, it
makes a comic book sense.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an ass pull, but it's nothing too extreme.
Well, I mean, he could hold it down there indefinitely. It's not like they have to worry about breathing.
I mean, I don't mean to belabor this too much, but didn't the Sun Pirates have another ship too at this point? Like their main ship I thought they had moved on from Fisher Tiger's ship, or that Fisher Tiger's ship was destroyed during that whole thing with not with Kizaru, with Strawberry, actually.
Yeah, it's funny that you mention that, because not knowing for sure if they only have one ship or not was why I phrased it in that very first bubble. That ship belongs to the Sun Pirates, rather than saying that is the Sun Pirates ship, since I didn't know if it was singular or not, or it should be considered a singular possession of theirs. So, yeah.
It is frequently a confusing thing in Japanese translation. Yeah. Terminating plurals. Yeah,
for sure.
Where are we here, Alex?
All right. The Charlotte fleet, beginning with Oven, notices this and gives them the order, "All ships turn quick." Meanwhile, in Wadatsumi's, I could only assume smelly mouth, Luffy asks where they are as Carrot shakes herself dry. Jinbei explains that they're inside Wadatsumi's mouth. When this is in the anime, I expect some gross faces from the rest of the Straw Hats. Meanwhile, on the surface, our good pal Oven uses tropical torpedoes by sticking his hands, of course, in the sea, and really hot sea currents follow Wadatsumi and manage to catch up with him.
I think they all shoot off of his fingers.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I think
that would make
the
sense.
torpedoes come from each of his fingers. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I like that. It looks like a giant negative hollow went through Wadatsumi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except
Yeah,
it's burning heat instead of negative emotions.
Depression. Yeah.
Instead of
Yeah.
depression.
Instead of
prefer the
saying,
burning heat.
oh, I wish I was burned alive. So that affects Wadatsumi pretty much immediately. He sticks his head out of the water and goes, it's too hot. And Spit takes the Sunny, rocketing it into the air. And everybody is screaming, and the only one who seems to keep his composure is the only one of their crew members who can use Moonwalk, Sanji. As the ship lands in the water with a loud zabloosh, we see Wadatsumi being boiled alive as Luffy screams, "Wadakichi!" Which, of course,
Giving
is
him a
not
nickname already. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's really cute.
Is there what was the Japanese reasoning for that, or is it just a?
It's one of Luffy's things. So Oda
Yeah.
does this a lot, where Luffy will just kind of attach a generic, like, sort of Japanese sounding name ending. So yeah, presumably he either that or he couldn't remember the full name Wadatsumi, so he just goes with Wada and then is like Kichi.
The funny thing is, I feel like Luffy has an understanding of people's names in One Piece like a casual One Piece reader would. Like when we bring a little
Yeah.
better than Jammer, but it's,
Yeah.
it's in between there. So he kind of
Big
makes
guy.
something up.
Yeah.
Go on.
And
sorry.
as he's being boiled alive, we get Wadatsumi's Bon Clay moment as he says, "Go, keep going, Straw Hat. I did a bad thing on Fishman Island, and I'm sorry for that. But Boss Jimbei took me in after that, and I'll always be grateful."
How his voice
Turned
sounds
into
again.
a Tontara at the
Or
end.
Gollum.
So in the anime, his voice is extremely high.
Yeah,
I
wow.
forgot about
I
that.
did not
Yeah.
know that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very jarring to me first time I heard it. But yeah, that's what his voice is like in the anime.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It's the text is like similar to a Tintata, but actually even a little bit more pronounced, I think. So that's
Oh,
kind of
wow.
why it's like that. And on the next page, Oven is furious about this. He's so mad that the flames are in his eyes as he yells, "Out of my way, sea monk!" And he's presumably burning him even further. You can see just like steam rising off of Wadatsumi's head. But he still continues, from the moment Boss Jinbei said he was going to join Straw Hat, we knew what we had to do. And then we go to the planning meeting here of all the Sun Pirates, Sans Jinbei, and this is probably, presumably at some point in the in-between parts of this arc when we weren't seeing them. And we start off with Praline, who's explaining. She's got the explaining finger out. She's like, "Mama's the kind of person who kills anyone who tries to leave. Sha, sha, sha." And she's laughing since obviously that's super hilarious that Mama kills everybody. And Jinbei, they're kind of or not Jinbei, Aladdin and the rest of these guys are all kind of talking out, finishing each other's sentences. What can we do for Captain Jinbei? That is, we can be his shield and die in his place. And they're still laughing. Yeah, well, we can't all go. We need someone to tell the tale of the Sun Pirates. And Aladdin says, "I will. I'm not going to judge if you want to stay behind. No judges. Everybody who comes along has to know what we're in for. This is essentially a suicide mission.
Why didn't you translate that? No judges.
No judges. Yeah.
No judges.
Jinbei's going on his new voyage, and we're not gonna let them stop him. And so they're all cheering. So you can kind of interpret this as, I guess, like putting a brave face with all the laughter. since it's obviously a very dire mission they're undertaking, but they're going to do it for Jinbei, for Boss Jinbei. And Wadatsumi finishes, "We made up our minds," and Luffy is kind of struck by this dedication, and then all of a sudden a hand reaches up and grabs the side of Wadatsumi's head, and it's the fishmen. They are pushing him back down under the water as another explosion happens right on the surface, presumably from the Queen Mama Shantae. And then they all rush up to the surface, and they got their tridents and all their weapons in there. They're looking mean and ready for a fight.
Well, not all of them.
Which ones?
Oh, sorry, I've gone too far. It's on the next page. Sorry.
So Jinbei is stunned by this. They're all here. Aladdin, everyone. He's doing his Muppet face.
No Judges could have been a really good title for the chapter, because we also don't see Vinsmoke Judge.
And also, every face that Jinbei makes is a Muppet face.
It's true.
Fun fact. So, what's the name of Big Mom's ship again? We just got it last chapter, right?
The Queen Mama Shantae.
The Queen Mama Shantae is... so this is a 2-page spread here. I think it's the only one of the chapter. Yes? No, one of 2. And that ship takes center stage here in this top panel. And you really see how enormous it is. You have Germa smoking in the background. You have a bunch of the torch ships up front, which are probably a little bit bigger than the Sunny even. You got Wadatsumi's giant acorn-looking head. Hey, maybe he's Nolan's descendant, too.
Wadatsumi land.
The shape of Wadatsumi, because that's how that had to happen.
Oh, no.
Oh God. I have to write that down.
Being a real Umi bozo. Call back.
Okay, I'm writing all of these down, but I don't like it. Okay, so you see the line of all the Sun Pirates there, including Wadatsumi,
like
saying...
Braveheart line.
It is, yeah, saying, "We're sending you off with our blessings. Jinbei, Straw Hats, keep going." And Jinbei in silence is shocked. The shippy ship is also in silence and shocked. And Praline is laughing because everything's funny.
That's who I was talking about. All the fishermen are lined up, and she's given a dainty wave to Big Mom's ship.
And Oven is... what is going on in these panels? Oh, no, that's his hair. I thought there were 2 speech bubbles that were just, like, shaking. It's like,
this is my real hair.
He does look like he's straining, so that wouldn't be off.
Yeah, but it's funny because it makes, like, perfect speech bubbles there. You could totally have those ellipses or something there. And we just got the name of this in the last episode we talked about. What's the name of the devil woman here?
No, that's just Galette.
That's Galette.
Oh, that's Galette. Oh, I'm sorry.
Her sister is Poir, the panda hood
that's
girl.
What I was thinking. Mm-hmm. And she basically saying fire, and we get this all in silence, which is really cool. It's this dramatic, as Stephen put it, Braveheart-like scene, and the ships are firing on the fishmen in the water, and you get, when you go to the next side of the page here, you get this really cool confrontation with Aladdin and Oven, which seem to be pretty evenly matched. It's cool. And the dialogue comes back in here as we hear that a sailing... this is Aladdin, I assume?
This is Jinbei.
This is Jinbei saying, okay. Oh, yeah, I understand what's happening here. So Jinbei begins some speech, and we're not quite sure why at this point, saying that a sailing ship's greatest weakness is taking on water, so what is it? There's a... bail it out as quickly as possible is another term for that. So the ship is heavy and slow right now. Patch the hole, find the right angle for adequate wind support, and proceed as fast as you can. Basically being what the hell is his title? The
Helmsman.
Yeah,
he's like mom's leaving the directions on the notepad on the kitchen table.
Oh my god, that's exactly what's... you know what? You should probably pin that to Luffy's shirt. He's not going to remember any of this.
Yeah.
Anyway, Brooke is like, and Jinbei continues, it'll take you hours to leave the territory. And Luffy's like, what are you talking about? Why are you explaining this stuff? And he begins his speech. Ed.
Well, he starts, Luffy, I cannot abandon them now. And Luffy's like, Luffy's pulling on a coat at this point. He says, okay, got it. Then we'll stay in. And Jinbei continues.
Chopper actually put this coat on in the previous panel. I was looking at the coat because the coat's very cool, and I wanted to see how that happens.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Is it a coat or a blanket?
Yeah, it's probably a blanket.
Yeah, it's probably a blanket.
Yeah, he's like James Brown.
I prefer to think of him as wearing a cape here, but go on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if he is the kid in this scenario, then that's how kids wear capes. They just put the blanket around the shoulders.
Right. So Luffy was like, okay, I got it. We'll stay. And then Jinbei, almost like he wasn't listening, and he says, I'll be the rear guard to ensure this ship gets away. At this point, if the mothership and fleet remain on our heels, escape will be impossible. Allow me to hold down the end of the line. I will fulfill this duty and return alive. Determined face from Luffy. Determined face returned by Jinbei. And Luffy declares to him, don't forget, Jinbei, your captain is me now. And Luffy, he's really intense when he says that, too. It's almost like he's yelling it. And Jinbei looks down solemnly.
So it's like at this point, you're like, oh, is he going to lay down the law? Is he going to be like, no, you're coming with us? Or...
Well, I think the important thing is Jinbei said he would come back alive. So,
we'll find out on the next page what he means, Alex.
The Fishman pirates continued to get slaughtered by the Shantae and Smoothie. And Luffy says, we're not stopping the ship. And then we get an amazing dodon, or just a don shot of Luffy. He says, we'll be waiting in Wano, so you'd better show up. And you can see the determination in his face. Nami is shocked by shocked. I don't know. At this point, how shocked can she be? And Jinbei, of course, says, I am in your debt, and bows to him solemnly. And Luffy says, don't let even death stop you. And obviously he's yelling to Charlotte Moscato, Minister of Gelato, but I think he's also yelling at Jinbei, Minister of Curzon Way.
Oh my god.
But Jinbei has a nice solemn smile on his face. Really great moment. Meanwhile, Big Mom is at sea, and she just has gotten filled in by Perospero. She says, both Jinbei and Germa 66? Is that Straw Hat Boy still alive on Cacao Island? And Perospero says, he's alive, Mama, but with nowhere to run. And they're no longer surfing on the sea slug, but this appears to be or I'm sorry, not a candy sea slug, but this is a candy frog prince. It looks like with a goofy face. It looks like Mr. Mouth, if you guys remember that game.
Oh yeah.
Where you have to like
the bucket game.
Yeah, what?
Oh, never mind.
Did you say Bakugan?
No. A bucket game.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's like little.
Mr. Bucket was the one I was thinking of.
Oh, well, this is kind of like Mr. Bucket, except you don't put balls in his mouth. Is that how you do it? I'm sorry.
We're way off
track. Out of his mouth. That's anyway. Look up Mr. Mouth. You'll know what I'm talking about. So Big Mom says, if he's not dead for sure, then I'm going. I'll steal his soul and make him into one of my most powerful homies yet. Mama.
Sorry, I thought that was Gecko Moria for a second.
Yeah, she obviously doesn't understand that that probably won't work on Luffy since he's not scared of you.
Yeah, that's true.
Meanwhile, on the Tart 25 is Capone Gangbej saying, we scraped through it with our lives. I guess life ain't all doom and gloom. Now we can take our time getting away. So as it looks like, even though the Nostra Castello or Castello Nostra is
Nostra Castello.
All right, I got it right the first time. Shit. Nostra Castello is history. The Beige Pirates are not, or the Fire Tank
That's the one thing I didn't want to die in this chapter.
Yeah. And as they're sailing away, you hear Vito say, "Lolo, let's hope Germa's okay." Germa, Vito is our favorite. The opposite of a germaphobe, he is.
Germophile.
A germophile. That's right. Germaphobe or germophile. And we get a shut up from Capone as they sail away, and
the audience.
And the audience. That's right. That's the perfect.
Yeah.
That's the perfect
send off for Vito.
Yeah, that's a season wrap for the Fire Tank Pirates as Chiffon looks off into the distance.
Yeah, that probably is the end of that. But who knows? It's one. I mean, for a little while, but who knows? It's One Piece. People always come back way sooner than you think. Steven, finish us up.
Yeah, so we get a very quick intermediate. I guess I don't want to call it a flashback panel because I think this is actually just in between the last point that we saw them. Since as you can see out of the corner of your eye right now, the crew, the Sunny is pulling away from the Queen Mama Shantae at this point. But Jinbei was telling her that when fishmen are serious enough, we can change the currents. And so she's like, oh, okay. And now in the present moment, she's just stunned by what she's seeing, as is Carrot. And meanwhile, under the water, Aladdin and Jinbei are bickering. He's just like, sometimes I just can't believe you. Do you really have so little trust in us? Since Jinbei is staying behind and somewhat ruining their grand statement here. But he just says, oh, don't think of it that way, brother. I'm just making sure we all survive so that you can send me off properly. And then we get the panel in the middle of this spread here. Great perspective shot of the Sunny sailing away from the Queen Mama Shantae and the rest of the fleet. And there's just giant waves crashing and whipping around. And it was kind of a neat, I guess you could call it a callback, because we really haven't seen them do this since the very first time with, who was it? Was it
Pudding?
Pudding, yeah. When the Arlong pirates mess up his ship by, pushing the rocks around and causing whirlpools and all kinds of stuff like that. And this was a great callback. I like the way you can see in the corner panel how all the fishmen are like, swimming in the spiral pattern to wreak havoc. And as they are doing this, we could hear over the transponder snail the Big Mom pirates. Straw Hat Luffy is escaping, leaving Jinbei behind as rear guard. The fleet is being held back. They'll lose sight of the ship soon. And we can see who is listening to this transmission as what looks like some kind of balloon being pulled by a whole bunch of seagulls that are cooing. And a certain large, apparently flightless bird is saying, "Go, Straw Hat, go!" And Stussy is there saying, "Oh, you seem to be in his corner." And Big News Morgans is happily monitoring the proceedings. Well, he's certainly a contender because the way I see it, Stussy, near future, one of the worst generation is going to rise to claim the mantle of the Pirate King, with a forward-facing Muppet
Stare
there.
into the camera.
Stare into the camera, looking real mean.
Not mean. He's delivering news. This is how he does it. or at least this is his op-ed article here.
Right.
Big News is op-ed. What would you call it?
From the editorial bird.
From the okay. From the editorial bird comes this hot take right now. Okay, so that is chapter 901. Who loved the hell out of this chapter here? Who is like head over heels? Anyone here?
I didn't love it, but I didn't think it was a bad chapter. I liked it a lot.
All right, well, Alex, you could start us.
Yeah. So let's get this out of the way first. Jinbei blue balls. I feel like I thought that a lot of people would be rioting because of this chapter, because this is like, oh, Jinbei's doing this doing this to us again, like he's leaving. But I'm not I'm not super sad about it, just because of the way he left. His moment with Luffy, I thought, like, made up for that big time, and we'll get to see him in Wano. Like, the way I see it, it's like, how excited were we when he showed up in the whole Cake Island arc? Well, I wouldn't be sad if he had another cool moment like that in Wano. And it seems like this is going to be like maybe the last crew member, like core crew member, that we're going to be getting. So why not make it count twice? I don't know. I'm sure there's narrative excuses that I could give, further down the line, depending on what happens. But the scene where Luffy tells him, "Your captain is me now," and he's sort of looking like that, and he's like, they're both sternly staring back and forth. It's sort of like when Jinbei's looking down, it's almost like, well, what have I gotten myself into? This is another Big Mom situation now, isn't it? Mm. I feel like I wanted to go back and reread it, but I don't have that English volume of where Big Mom is talking to Jinbei and he's about to leave. But I feel like he probably has heard that before. Remember, Jinbei, I'm your captain. Like, don't forget. Like, but instead of Big Mom giving him an order to, like, if you leave me, you'll die, Luffy says, do what you got to do, but we'll be waiting, so you better come back.
Actually, that's a really good contrast, Alex. It's almost the same thing that happened with Big Mom, but Luffy obviously has a very different take on it, which is probably why Jinbei has a different expression on the following page.
Yeah, it's when you think about this arc and how Jinbei fits into it, it sort of works out very well in that way. In this arc, you see Jinbei confront Mama. You see him come back and return the sake cup, and then you see him pledge his loyalty to Luffy. But when you're with Big Mom, despite the fact that you're a pirate and you're supposed to be free on the seas as you wish, your freedom is still compromised, like, a whole lot. In this way, with Luffy, he actually is a lot more free than he ever was with Big Mom. I don't know. I think there's a lot about Jinbei and his character arc through this through the whole Cake Island arc that I've really come to like the ebb and flow of.
Luffy stands for freedom above really all other things, it seems. So.
And I love how more and more we see Luffy act like the captain that he's supposed to be.
Well, that blanket cape really does help.
It does. Yeah, no, he definitely looks cool in it. All the other stuff in the chapter I thought was really, really fun. I want to say a little piece, I guess, about the last page, the ship sailing away with the fishermen churned waters. Like, that's a beautiful panel. Like, I'm in awe of those waves. They just look so damn good. But yeah, that's basically my major thoughts on the chapter.
Any other big positive takes? Ed, I believe you said you really enjoyed this chapter.
Yeah, I did. It's a little disappointing because it sort of nullifies. I mean, granted, I realized last week we were doing a lot of wild speculation. So completely, I honestly, I completely expected this to be some kind of bait and switch, because that's Oda undoing his own storytelling isn't something that he would normally do, and it was fun to speculate last week. We probably should have seen this coming because of how Oda is, but within the confines of that sort of limitation, I thought it was a lot of fun. I really especially loved some of the art, especially the panel on the last page of the fishmen creating like the tempest and the wave, like the way the waves, they sort of look like that old Japanese woodcut waves a little bit, but they're also like facing each other, and like you can see how like no one could get through that. It's an interesting way of drawing waves that I really liked. And as you were mentioning, the interactions between Jinbei and Luffy, and sort of the difference in having a crew where people trust and love each other and understand they trust each other's judgment, as opposed to the opposite of that, which is Big Mom's crew. And we've seen how dysfunctional Big Mom's family and crew is this entire arc. And I think Jinbei was really sort of, I think when he looked down like that, I think that's sort of what he was thinking about. And you could see that contented smile on his face when Luffy says, "Don't let even death stop you." So, we'll be waiting for you. So you better show up. And Luffy acknowledges Jinbei's debt to his crew. And although I can understand Aladdin's position as well of being like, I wanted to like let you go on your journey, but I guess Aladdin should have known that he wouldn't just let his men, kill themselves like that.
Well, the good thing is at least Wano's the next stop, so it's basically like swim your way over there. We're gonna see you at the next stop.
Oh yeah, Wano's gonna be insane. Like all the fishermen pirates, including Wadatsumi, are gonna be there too. So it's I feel like we're gearing up for Marine for 2.0.
And I mean, most importantly, Jinbei would then be, and I know I'll give my thoughts later, but Jinbei would be presumably joining the crew when the full crew is there, and not this half a crew thing.
That would be nice, yeah.
Which I think will mean more for sure.
Well, I mean that. In my opinion, that's why Oda is holding off here, because there's no other reason to hold off. Kelly,
I had more stuff about Big Mom in particular, and I said that I would eat part of a shoe if Pudding's power wasn't involved. Big Mom is still chasing them. She's going to be out by her ship, so I don't think we've quite left Whole Cake Island yet. Or
no,
maybe,
we definitely have.
Or maybe we leave and then we find out what happened to Resolution at some later point. But this.
Well, we had that wild speculation last week where we're just gonna cut to the Reverie or something crazy like that. Very quickly undercut.
But now that the Straw Hats aren't there, there's less of a chance of going back there next week. But yeah, I think there's something going on with Pudding's power, and like the Germa is just. Sanji was kind of, we were going to save Germa. That was part of the deal, and their ship is destroyed, and we don't really know what's happened to them. They're dead on Cacao Island or whatever. So that'll be interesting. I still think Pudding's power will have some influence in the last part of this.
Yeah, there's still a lot of moving pieces. Kelly.
So I think the chapter was kind of a mixed bag for me. I didn't really mind Jinbei not joining just yet. I wasn't as so much concerned with that. I think the thing that I was a little bit hung up with was sort of the whole Wadatsumi, we pulled the ship under the water kind of thing. And I get why, but I think maybe it wasn't my favorite solution for all of that. I really loved all the fight sequences on the water. And particularly the line of the ships that we were talking about a little bit earlier with Big Mom's ship and Germa burning in the background and all of those things. I thought that was just absolutely, absolutely gorgeous panel. Big Mom's ship, the masthead freaks me out, but I think it's a really cool design. So I always like to see that in a nice big panel. The one thing I will say about what's been going on right now, I really kind of don't know what's going to happen next. And I like that aspect of it. Sometimes I think it's a little bit more predictable, but I don't really think we're done with Whole Cake Island yet. I don't really think personally we're going to, slip over to the Reverie or anything else. I feel like there's still a lot with Big Mom. To what you were saying before with Pudding's power, I don't think this is all completely resolved. So I'm kind of curious to see, even if some of this plot with the fishermen trying to stop Big Mom actually makes it all its way through to fruition, or if it's going to have to change things up. I mean, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull Jinbei back on the ship or something. So I feel like it's open ended enough where I really don't know what's happening, and I think that's the aspect I like the most right now, even if I'm not necessarily completely satisfied with how they're getting from point A to point B.
Yeah, and it also, I just want to add what about Zeus? Still on the Thousand Sunny.
Presumably.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah. Presumably. Yeah. Well, I mean, they've gone through a lot recently. But who knows? Steven, wait, actually, Alex, can you give Steven's thoughts on this chapter?
Oh yeah, I was talking to Greg briefly about the chapter and and our reactions to it, and he told me that Steven described the chapter in 2 words: wet fart.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of a disclaimer here, and normally I wouldn't feel the need to do this, but it is such a it's kind of a unique situation here for some of the reasons Kelly was just mentioning, because it looks, I think we can all tell, everyone can reasonably tell that we are very close to the ending of this arc, whether that is 0 chapters to 3 chapters away or 4 chapters or something like that. It seems very clear that we are post cake, that and now that they are essentially making their escape, that the end is very nigh. And I have to be very careful about how I frame, my opinions, because I don't want to unintentionally, sort of set up expectations for people for what they expect to see ahead. Like if I was like, oh, well, don't count your chicken, maybe there's more to this than we think, then people will expect, okay, well, maybe there's yet another twist and turn coming ahead.
Oh, I'm speculating wildly now from this disclaimer.
Right.
Wow, what's going to happen next week?
So I guess I just wanted to stress that, I personally had a very strong visceral reaction to this chapter when I first read it. And that is what I'm going to say. This is what I felt as soon as I finished reading this chapter. And my
wet fart is the visceral reaction.
Wet fart. No, it was, my very first thought was like, oh, okay, well, this is over. Like that's the end. They're sailing away from Big Mom now. Like this is the end of the arc. Maybe we have one more chapter or something like that. And under that assumption, I felt like, so at the end of last week's chapter, I had said, that I was disappointed. I was disappointed in the execution of like the actual eating of the cake, thinking that it was very like unceremonious. It wasn't like a cool triumphant moment really. And that the big, kind of, I guess the memorable value of that chapter was that it had this crazy song and it ends with this shocking, like, oh my God, what happened to the Sunny thing? And my biggest fear there was that, okay, so maybe Oda will give us a quick turnaround. Like he'll show his hand immediately, because it wasn't meant to be, he didn't end up, smash cut to the reverie where we don't know what happened to the crew. Instead, he just, okay, no, they're okay. We're still continuing with this storyline for the time being. But he didn't do anything that addressed the problems that I had with that old chapter. And if anything, he kind of even made it worse, because I feel like throughout Whole Cake, we've had a lot of different storylines, like sub storylines, whether that's, Sanji and Pudding, or like Pedro and Brooke and some backstory stuff, or Pudding's memory powers, or Chiffon and maybe Lola, all these different angles that are part of this narrative that he's been weaving together, and Sanji and Judge and the Germa. And I feel like he's kind of, pun very much intended, he's kind of half baked a lot of those storylines where we've been kind of expecting them to coalesce into like a full emotional kind of storyline, and it now seems like we're kind of moving away from Whole Cake Island. We didn't have like a scene where Big Mom eating the cake, unlocked her memories of Mother Carmel or some like dramatic change like that. We haven't seen Pudding use her memory powers. Lots of different things just kind of feel like they got left hanging. And the one subplot that I think he has delivered in abundance was Jinbei and the Sun Pirates. Like, I feel like he's done more than enough to show like how close they are as a unit, like how big of a deal this is for them that Jinbei is leaving and joining the Straw Hats, and how close they all are and everything like that. And then to come out of that cliffhanger, and for him to immediately show his hand, to be like, just kidding, it was just a run of, your average weekly cliffhanger, and then have this, and then be like, and guess what? Jinbei's not, officially joining the crew. We're not going to end this arc with, the big, like, welcoming ceremonial, official thing that everyone's going to remember for years to come after this arc. Just kind of felt like a kick to the nuts. Like, are you kidding me? Like, how can you do this? And I agree with, the things that everyone was saying about the way that he executed it is fine. Like, Luffy and Jinbei facing off, and the resolution, and the resolution in their, attitudes, and all of that, this, I don't know if I call it mind games, but, the mental processes that were going on. I feel like he executed that perfectly. I just have a problem with the storytelling, the idea to put this off yet again. And I'm not sure, what he intends to do. Like, if there's going to be, a super, kind of crazy Deus Ex Machina style, like Jinbei, launching himself in to save the day at just the right moment in Wano. But, it kind of felt like we already had that, or were supposed to have that in this arc. And so I just kind of feel it's hard for me to get excited about that in particular. And I don't know why, like, maybe Oda was thinking, okay, I need the fishmen to hold off, the Big Mom pirates in order for the Sunny to realistically escape. And maybe he was figuring, narratively, there's no big difference between, like, them holding off the Big Mom pirates and then swimming back and just rejoining them in the open sea, like, before we get to Wano, as being essentially no different from them just, like, sort of being on the run with constantly fighting the Big Mom pirates the entire time. Like, maybe he figured, well, if I'm going to push them apart, then it needs to count. So I need to do it for a certain set amount of time.
Well, I can also see him doing that for the reason of these revelations, large revelations involving the resolution of Big Mom's memories and other things, would not be appropriate at this point in the story. So we're leaving that story, and we get to tell that again when Jinbei rejoins in Wano, and then we can do those revelations with Big Mom in the middle of that. That would be...
That could be.
I really don't like that.
But yeah, I feel like that really diminishes what this arc is.
I mean, even though, sorry, Steven, but I mean, just to address Ed's point, like, even though the arcs are kind of melding together more than they would have pre-New World, they're still self-contained stories as much as they can be. So it would be, to me, narratively, extremely disappointing and kind of betraying if we go to Wano and then we have a whole story about the resolution here at Whole Cake Island. That seems like a really sloppy way to go about it.
Right, but that's, I mean, how many other options are there except for, next chapter they start that, so.
Well, I mean, I'll discuss that, I guess, in my part, but Steven, any other?
No, I mean, I have more thoughts about kind of what this does for the arc as a whole, but I feel like I should save that until we actually, once we are 100% through, done, and we can have like a little bit of a,
I guess I win this contest.
A whole cake round table or so.
I think I picked 901. God damn it. And they technically did sail away in this chapter, I guess, maybe.
Well, that means you can handpick somebody to.
Yeah, I could also just have some random person host the podcast here. Or a random person in general. I don't know. I'll figure something out.
Just get a guy off the street.
Just
you want to host the podcast?
It's like, about what? So I have really mixed feelings. I'm definitely closer to Steven's end here. I don't know. So the way I would describe this chapter, it's everything I didn't want to happen executed really well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I think we were asked in the last chapter, like, what would disappoint you in the resolution to the where did the Thousand Sunny go? Is it destroyed? This would have been probably my number one or number two answer, and what would have disappointed me. On the other hand, I think Oda executed it pretty damn well. that considered, but the premise of it angers me. I mean, we've been inside of, I guess the Going Merry has been inside a whale before, and what else have we been in? have we done? We've been inside lots of creatures as the Straw Hats. Luffy was in a snake and in a snake's eye, and inside of buildings and inside of chimneys and inside of anyway. I was just kind of disappointed with it. Just felt like such a Deus Ex Machina to have a random, this random ship is what burnt up, and the flag happened to float to the top of the surface, and there was no real hint that this was going to happen in the last chapter. Like, not even like a little red herring, kind of like,
oh. Well, I mean, you do see the flag break off when Wadatsumi takes it down.
Yeah, no, I know, but it seems
in this
like
chapter, yeah.
I think that's a cheap little thing that he did there. I don't know. I was kind of disappointed by that, the whole first part of this chapter. And the Jinbei story in general. I mean, I agree with Steven, but on the other hand, I guess it would have been weird to have that moment without the full crew, that moment being him joining the crew without the full crew there. And
I guess that is a good point.
And on the other, and Wano should be, who knows, but Wano should be sometime this year. It should be soon. I mean, but like in One Piece time, it should be soon. It's the next island presumably that we're going to. So I'm hoping that Jinbei is just literally following behind them and shows up at around the same time. Because otherwise, I don't want the dramatic re-entrance number 7.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. I mean, how many times has Jinbei come back now? It was after we first met him in Impel Down. Marineford, he was hanging out there and then he left. And then he shows up again in Fishman Island and disappears, and then shows up here again and disappears, and then shows up in Wano again, and like it's getting tired.
He's the Great Blue Dini. Which is also a flavor of Kool-Aid.
It is, yes.
Good to know. On the other hand, that last page of the chapter almost makes up for all of the things I'm complaining about. I love all of that. Artistically, it's really nice. Big News Morgans and his ship are fantastic and make me extremely happy. I think Aladdin as a character really stepped up, both in his fights here, with Oven particularly, as kind of vice captain. I don't know what you want to call him, first mate. I really enjoy Aladdin here, and I think, as Steven said, they really did a good job, developing the Sun Pirates, or the current Sun Pirate iteration in this arc, and I think this chapter does a good job with that. And I love whatever the hell Big Mom is riding on. On the other hand, on the other hand, I don't know how this is. I don't know where this is going, so that's good, I guess. But I was kind of disappointed by this chapter. But as I said, I think it was executed well. It's a nice looking chapter, and that moment with Luffy and his cape, or whatever you want to call it, is a great moment. And I love the contrast between Big Mom and Luffy, as we discussed. Does anyone have any other thoughts they want to go through?
It's funny because the end of Dressrosa is easily the best part of it, because it's the end of Dressrosa, and it ends like the way it ends is better than most of Dressrosa. Whereas this arc it's mostly highs like the entire way through. So I guess it only makes sense that we'd be a little disappointed. At the
I mean, I'd also just say, I
hate to compare everything to Dressrosa, but you know what? I have to, because even after rereading it, I still don't like it.
I also just like the fact that we get a real sea battle that lasts a while here.
Yeah.
And that's a cool way to end the arc, I think.
One hundo. Yeah, I agree.
I'm sorry, I keep thinking the Star Wars character.
No.
Any other thoughts?
I need to see Morgan's ship up close. I need to see that.
What the hell?
I would,
and I want to know
the
if these
biggest
are
betrayal of this chapter.
I want to know if these are like little news coups that he just sends off with information, pulling the ship.
Yeah, I bet they are. At first, I thought that for a second, I thought they were revolutionary crows, but
No.
I'm sure that they're news coups. There have to be.
Judging by the coup sound effects, I'm thinking so.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Stephen, can you confirm they are not crows?
I'm trying to remember now if I can remember the sound effect that the crows made, but I don't. But I feel like that's a good bet. They have his gull wing look, with like the darker ends. Yeah.
Stephen, there's only one spoiler I want for the next chapter, and that's if we see this ship up close. And I'm afraid the answer is almost definitely no, but that's all.
In my mind, it's a Final Fantasy style airship. And Sid's on there somewhere, but
that doesn't even. It doesn't
the whole
even
time
look like
it's the whole time it's there. The speakers are just playing some really badass airship music the whole time.
That's what I want.
That's what I would do.
I can't wait to see more of Big News Morgans and his spinoff from the editorial bird. Anyway, let's go into the next segment.
All right.
Toho.
Major film studio in Japan.
Yaro.
Guys,
We are Toho Yaro, the Toho guys.
we're a monthly movie club podcast where we watch a Japanese film and talk about it.
We discuss things like the existential dread of Akira Kurosawa's Ikiru,
And a cat portrait that barfs gallons of blood and house.
And just who is Tora-san?
Explore the world of giant monsters, historic swordsmen, and melodramatic truckers from Toho Studios and beyond with us,
Toho Yaro, part of the Maji Media Network, available wherever you get your podcasts.
We
are
Maji.
This is the Piece Together segment delivered by News Coup on a giant News Coup balloon. So, we're going to start out with emails this week, I promise. The first one comes from Shift, who says, since Big Mom said she would put Luffy's soul into a strong homie body, do you think she might have done so before with a certain other powerful intruder? I really think that that's how we'll eventually see Pedro reappear as a homie and not in his original body.
Oh, wow.
I think that depends on if she has the power to take souls if the body's unconscious, right? Because we've seen we've seen in the past her
Hold on, guys.
explanation of her powers.
What if Pedro is Charlotte Moscato, Minister of Gelato now?
This is getting very lost.
I don't hate that theory, but no.
I think the target user has to be afraid, right? Fear is what spits your soul out.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't think Pedro might be, but Luffy definitely would not be. And a lot of strong intruders would doubtfully be afraid.
And I doubt Pedro would be either because he's laid his life on the line.
Yeah, what does he have to be afraid of at this point?
He like tried to commit suicide like twice already before successfully doing it.
But she did take 50 years from him before.
First time.
So
I guess that's true, but I also feel like
maybe it's changed.
That was also in the same vein as taking the life of his partner, and a lot of emotions could be riding high at that point, and that was years ago.
He was younger.
I feel like he's hardened himself up to this point.
I think we'll get the answer when the anime reaches that scene, and if the new Moscato is like, instead of talking in a really stereotypical Italian accent, he's talking in an Antonio Banderas accent, then we'll know it's Pedro.
The question is, does that work in Japanese, and will we be able to tell? I guess we should have been able to tell in this manga chapter when we read it if we started talking in an Antonio Banderas voice.
I didn't hear any from the podcast, so
that's official. That's
that's it, guys.
Yeah.
We got to re-record the manga recap.
Next question comes from Ryan with a question I don't completely understand because I don't play enough video games. So I've been watching a bunch of Kingdom Hearts streams recently, and I was wondering, if you gave each Straw Hat a Keyblade, what Keyblade would they get? Seems like Kelly would be able to answer this question.
Yes, as a player of all things Kingdom Hearts, But I'm trying to think what keyblades I would give them.
I forget. Do they have like distinct designed blades that appear in all of the games? Like, oh, you got this one, or do they redesign them each time?
So the different worlds usually have different keyblades that you use, and depending on the game, you might have a keyblade that you can either get at the end, or in the new one, it looks like you have ones that you maybe only can use in the world itself. So like there might be like a Toy Story keyblade or something like that.
I recall there being two for Nightmare Before Christmas, right? Because the first game, you're in Halloween Town, and then you're in Christmas Town, the next one. So it's like a different holiday blade.
So you could probably design like arc-themed keyblades for them. That would be pretty cool.
You could do like
Whole Cake Island
whole cake keyblade, and a flamingo keyblade for Doflamingo.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Vince Smoke Plot Device says, do you guys think Oda just set up a future adventure in this chapter? First, he had Katakuri tell Luffy to one day defeat Big Mom, and now Oda asked Jinbei to stay back and help them escape. I don't know if Oda personally asked that, but anyway, I think sometime in the future we might either go rescue Jinbei, or Jinbei will somehow succeed and appear in Wano later, like Luffy said. Perhaps the news will say that Jinbei was killed by Big Mom, but he was able to escape and show up at Wano. What do you guys think? When will we see a definite closer against Big Mom, if that happens?
So I think that we're going to get treated to a scene where Jinbei is about to be killed by Big Mom, but just at the last second, Wadatsumi switches him with an actual whale shark.
See, now I'm hoping that Morgans picks him up and drops him off.
You know, between
I want him on that airship.
Between that and Brooke's fake skeleton, I feel like Big Mom is, you know, her crew in general has just shown to be very susceptible to this kind of trickery. So I guess that does make sense.
Oh my God, that's true.
No, actually, I think maybe this is just wishful thinking, but I kind of like what I guess what Zach and I think maybe Ed were saying by the end of the manga recap, which is that I don't want it to be like a big, you know, waiting on tenterhooks for Jinbei to show up. Like I want him to just show up as soon as they get to Wano and the whole crew is there and they can do that, you know, that bonding moment. Like just start out the arc off with a bang with that, rather than you know, having to drag that around over our heads the whole time.
I mean, I could even see it like under like gunfire and like, you know, chaos around them in Wano when they first arrive. Because I'm imagining they don't just arrive and everything's like, you know, fine. But to have the crew with Jinbei reunite under those circumstances right away, I would personally find satisfying.
I'd wager that the Sun Pirates could get to Wano in record time, considering they're, you know, fast swimmers.
Yeah.
So
you could say the fastest. Next question comes from Martin, who says, now that Morgans has been shown in the anime, how well do you think he will do in the popularity rankings? Will we be able to make him in the top 20, so Oda has to put him in a color spread? Now, so what's that stupid falafra? Yeah, can we legitimately put a campaign together for whenever the next popularity poll is for Morgans?
I'm gonna say that, well, this is impossible, not just to throw water on everybody, but because if you really want like a minor character like that to get a big push, he needs a sidekick, and unfortunately his sidekick is Stussy, who is a girl. If you had a guy, then the Fujoshi would be all over it.
That's
like,
right.
Oh, all those, you know, furtive glances between Morgans and, you know, his second in command, his vice, you know, editor.
All right, why doesn't someone just gender bend Stussy and go crazy with that? And I don't even. We could make this happen. Do we not have enough of a following that we could get big news Morgans in the top 20? The answer is no, we don't. So let's see, what's the next question? I think that's the last email. Stephen, what do we have? Oh, actually, no, we have one more. And he said, you may have missed the email last week. So I'm glad we're doing this. Oh, here we go. This is from Ben Wild, and I think we have a pretty good crew on for this today. You may have missed the email last week, but again, it's time for Ben Wild's annual trivia questions. You may remember this.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet.
I can't believe
My neighbor to the north.
Yeah, I can't believe. Where is he from again?
Stevens Point, Wisconsin.
Stevens Point.
Yeah.
Stevens Point. From where all Stevens are born or bred, or created.
Wow, which one were you, Steven?
I can.
He can't confirm.
This privileged communication. Sorry.
Top secret. So feel free. He said we could use this at the end of the episode quiz, but we might as well do it now here. So it's $20 for every correct answer. And so let's go. Would like to get. Okay, so let's go. There are 6 questions. First one. What is Panda Man's birthday?
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Oh, we just did this.
Did we?
Yeah. Oh, yes. It's February 29th.
Can you explain why?
Because that's a leap day. And so he only appears once every 4 years.
Oh my God, yes.
I remember this now. Yeah.
Yes.
That's so good.
We have our ace card here with Steven.
Yeah.
And we have a smaller crew today too. So, 2, I think I know this. The name of Kuzan's penguin.
Oh, Camel.
Yeah.
Camel. Yeah.
Number 3, Luffy's gladiator number in Dressrosa.
69, 420.
No, he's don't take that as the answer. It was 700 something, wasn't it? Like 775 or something?
Well, he was like one of the last entrants.
It was a reference to a chapter number, I think. Right?
Well, if it was 700, I'm going to guess that this is just me. I would guess by, just kind of default that it would be 756 because then you get the Gomu, the 56 thing that he always reuses.
See, I thought it was 2 numbers at the end that were the same, but are we going with 756? Is that?
I have no idea about any of these questions. I'm just leaving this to y'all.
You see, I thought it was also, or maybe it was just at the time people were speculating. Oh, it has to be a chapter number reference. It could have also started with a 5 if that were the case, because I don't think we were even in the 700s in Dressrosa. But
yeah, that's all the 700s was Dressrosa.
Yeah, so it could have been like 550 something. I don't know.
That's right. It's the cursed number.
Okay, so we'll go with Stevens. I don't know if we're gonna get that one though. How many berries did it cost to enter Skypiea when Eneru was god?
Aha! Wow. Now that's a trick question because X-tolls are the.
I think it's 10,000 X-tolls to a berry, right? I think it's the conversion.
Yeah, but X-tolls are not berries.
Yeah.
So we have to do math.
Wait, so how many X-tolls was it?
I'm saying let's not do math. Let's just say trick question.
I like the way you think, Steven.
That's right, because you can't pay X-tolls. Good point.
So you can't pay berries. They don't have an exchange. What do you call them? The actual places?
Exchange?
No, like the actual
currency desk.
Currency
or whatever.
desk. There's no currency desk in Skypiea. Therefore, impossible to answer.
I mean, there might be now, but it's for rubber bands, converting rubber bands.
That's true. He did say when Eneru was god. So, did we have an actual? No, that's our final answer there.
I don't remember the actual.
Do we remember how many X-tolls?
60 billion. No, I think it might have been 60 billion. 60 billion X-tolls.
There is some fan just like ripping their hair out right now.
Oh yeah,
that person. This is coming from a guy who hosts the One Piece podcast. Please.
So let's just go with So 10,000 X-tolls to a berry. So it's what, 6 million berries? If I said 60 billion X-tolls,
is that really that much money though? I remember it being like an insane amount of money.
No, I remember it sounding like a lot when you said it in X-tolls, but it actually wasn't a lot. It was a modest amount if you said it in berries.
I thought it was the opposite. It was a modest amount in X. Okay,
but a lot in berries, right?
We could check this at the end to find it. No, yeah. I want to hear it from Ben.
No,
next
60
week.
billion X-tolls. That's what I say. So 6 million berries.
Yeah, okay. But how many Kokoyashis is that?
Number 5. What did Usopp say to wake up Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro on Thriller Bark after their shadows were taken?
Oh, that's right.
It's there's a hot lady swordsman
Carrying
with carrying meat.
Yeah,
Yes.
something like wasn't it like
I
a
remember that,
lecher?
yeah.
Oh no, there was no lecherousness.
No.
There's a lot.
Sanji is the lecher.
And last but not least, number 6, the name of the world noble Luffy punched at Shabuddy.
Well, it's Charlos, right?
Yeah, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. We get answers next week.
No, it wasn't Charlos. Charlos was the father.
Oh, right.
No. Charlos was the son.
The father
The
was
the father was Rosward.
yeah,
or whatever.
Roswald or
Yeah.
something.
Roswald.
Never mind,
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Patton Roswald.
No, the one you're thinking of, Ed. I think
It's from Gold. Film Gold. Wasn't it?
What's the one in Fishman Island? That's
I forget.
Oh, yeah.
We did a
That wasn't
quiz
John
on
Mack?
we did a quiz on this way back.
Yeah, that's why I remembered the Rosward thing, because I got that to break the tie or whatever.
Okay, that'll do it. Let's go to Reddit.
Okay, we will start with Yeoman Axel, who wants to address Moscato. While I'm sure there are many frustrated by yet another character seemingly escaping certain death, I think it's important to point out that Moscato never really died at all. His lifespan was taken, but Montour told the Black Blob homies to collect it before it was placed into a homie. My guess is that they told Big Mom what happened off screen, and since she was out of control and didn't mean for him to die, she revived him. So I think this particular instance is justified. Also, Moscato's body was perfectly fine and still a viable vessel for his lifespan at the time of his quote-unquote death. Pedro is just a bunch of bloody chunks right now. So even if his 50 years came back to him, it wouldn't matter, which is why I think Pedro is gone for good.
Now, we haven't seen said chunks. One.
Yeah.
And two, of course, Charlotte Moscato, Mr. Gelato, never died. He lived on through this podcast.
Yeah.
We never forgot him. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Mr. Fiendish says, has there ever been a theory floated that Luffy's hat was infused with a devil fruit, maybe the Luck fruit? Well, I think the theory has now been floated.
Well, the Luck fruit was used in gold, so it's definitely not that.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
And Oda did design that character.
Well, yeah, well, actually, I shouldn't say that. There are filler things that have come back and, been actual fruits. A piece comes to mind there. Well, not as a fruit. That was just Chopper's ability. Anyway, I think that's an interesting idea, but I feel like there's probably more significance to it than it just being infused with the devil fruit.
Yeah. It's going to be a more mystical and cool reason than just because, of a magical power that he established at the beginning of the series.
That's right. The hat was the one piece all along.
Yeah. ATLA for Life says, are there any islands or future events you are the most hyped to see that have been mentioned or alluded to happening, Luffy becoming the Pirate King notwithstanding? For me personally, it's Wano. Ever since it got mentioned, I've been incredibly hyped to see it, and I'm incredibly happy it's right around the corner.
Well, what else could it be but Wano? Like
Elbaf.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I guess I'm thinking as a Zoro fan because he's been too cocky since the time skip, and he's gonna get smacked.
Oh yeah, no, he needs some hubris.
Everything's been way too easy for him.
I mean, he needs some damage done to his own hubris, is what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
he already has hubris. He has plenty of it. 3 swords worth.
There aren't a lot of options, I think, left for this sort of thing. For me, it's definitely Reverie. Like I've been so excited for that, and I'm sure Wano will be cool, and I'm eager for it in the sense that I feel like Oda himself must have a ton of ideas that he wants to use in it, but I don't know. I mean, Kaido himself doesn't really I'm not that crazy about seeing what's up with Kaido. So in terms of big picture story stuff, I'm like, I just Reverie's got to be huge. So
yeah, and that's been built up, I think, just as much as Wano.
Yeah,
from a different perspective. Yeah,
right. All right, BTAD NYC says, hey, Zach, it looks like you'll be hosting your own podcast once you win the contest. I still think you should take this opportunity to make the podcast different. I'm sure you have some ideas, segments, or sketches you might want to try and make it a special episode, or just do a manga recap drinking game or something. Either way, congratulations.
Thank you. I can't believe Zach, get to host the One Piece podcast. It's gonna be, I don't know what I'm gonna do. It'll be crazy.
Have your fiance host it.
I'll bring that up. And that's all I'm gonna say.
All right. Fierce Alchemist says, I'm okay with Jinbei staying behind to protect his crew as that's in character for him. Well, yes. However, I understand why fans are frustrated as we've been waiting so many years for him to officially be a regular member of the crew. Presuming that Jinbei doesn't die, what do you think is Oda's long-term narrative goal for delaying him again? I mean, I can't believe I didn't think of this, but I think really that note that like, well, all of the crew isn't here right now to kind of make it official. It's the more I think about that, the more convincing it is, honestly. Not that it makes it, that it necessarily takes off the sting, but it's like, okay, well, if it does make that moment better, worth the extra delay, then I guess I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how like kind of disappointed I would be if like hey, we get a new crew member, but like half of the crew is not on the ship to relish in that cheers.
Right. It's always got to be like a party.
Yeah, yeah. Although half of the Straw Hats weren't there for the Grand Fleet cheers, but that's different, I think.
Yeah, those guys suck.
Yeah. It's different when it's someone who's not traveling on your ship with you.
Yeah. DDD Freed says, hey, OP pilots, pandas. In the 1990 film Misery, Annie Wilkes recalls getting very upset as a little girl when she found a continuity error in one of her chapter plays. She shouted in the theater, "This isn't what happened last week. Have you all got amnesia? They just cheated us." She later grew up to imprison her favorite author, drug him, hobble him, and force him to rewrite her favorite series over and over again until she was ready for their murder-suicide. My question is, Ed, how you doing?
What?
I don't know. Apparently someone's worried about you, Ed.
Ed, and man.
I got problems apparently.
I think they assumed that you would be the one that.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that you were probably one of the more positive people on this chapter.
Oh, I guess. I've been in a pretty good mood since about 1:30, 2 o'clock this afternoon for various reasons, not related to One Piece. But
I was gonna say that's very specific.
No, I recognize that it would be over the course of the past week. I recognize what I said during the manga recap that this probably isn't how Oda's going to tell a story. And mostly I was just having fun last week with the speculation. So
it's fun to wildly throw spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah.
Sure.
You feel like Charlie and It's Always Sunny. Or,
yeah.
Oh, well, that's your spaghetti policy.
as long as you're able to laugh about it afterward, like, oh my God, could you believe I thought this was going to happen once, all is said and done.
It's also why I don't get sort of invested in like theory culture.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of that out there, especially on Reddit and YouTube, a lot of like people getting invested in their theories. And I understand why people do that, but that's just not usually how I relate to media. More relating to it in a trying to understand the artist as well as the art and looking at it through that lens. A lot of people don't like to think about the artist, I think, when they're reading and theorizing like that. But I don't know.
Same as above. Chris Lafer says, the One Piece wiki just added Jinbei as an official crew member. Do you guys think he became an official member during the Tea Party, or was this the moment that he became official, or would it be in the future when he meets the rest of the Straw Hats in Wano?
I think it's when he's included in a color spread. I know it's a weird.
No, it's true. I distinctly remember Frankie's first color spread.
Which
I think it was the one Walk More Slowly.
Oh yeah, that's the one down the staircase. Which the poster for that stupid movie that I really didn't like. The one with Tom Hanks recently and Steven Spielberg.
Ready?
The Post.
No.
is
Oh, the
almost
post.
the same. That they have a poster that looks almost exactly like that.
Wow. So yeah, color spread is usually an indicator for me. That, and when you look at the volumes, it'll say who's a member of the Straw Hat Pirates. I mean, personally, I think that the moment that he said, "I'm on Luffy's crew now," like, and that it was mutually understood with the returning of the sake cup. Like, I think that's technically.
I mean, one could say that the implication was pretty directly there back in Fishman Island, but like he didn't say yes or no. But it's like there was no other way that was going to go, even after Fishman Island.
Oh, you know what? Luffy always, whenever they do the cheers, like on the boat after they've gotten a new crew member, they usually exclaim, or Luffy usually exclaims, "Hey, we have a new crew member." So maybe that's like the official indicator. Luffy exclaiming it in the middle of the celebration.
It's not official until Luffy's running around with the straws stuck between his nose and his bottom lip.
Yeah.
Doing his party trick. SS Luffy says, do you think that this is all the effect the cake is going to have on Big Mom? It's been over 25 chapters and 7 months of buildup with the wedding cake since Sanji decided to bake it. With that kind of buildup, I have to say I was expecting more and will be disappointed if the only thing it accomplished was that it tasted great. I was hoping it would trigger Big Mom to remember that she was the one who ate Mother Carmel. What are your thoughts? Do you think the cake will have some kind of delayed effect on her?
You mean like a laxative?
Yeah.
Wow.
Purge all that bad stuff from the past.
Just like
yeah.
a laxative for souls.
Oh.
Yeah. Soul laxative. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like with the way, see, that's another thing. Like, since it kind of seems like we're just sort of skipping past a lot of that potential, sort of cake related, story climactic type stuff. I almost wonder if that's going to be more of an Elbaf thing again. Like, we haven't talked about Prince Loki at all in the story since that was mentioned in what her fixation is. So if that is where he's taking it, I could see that not coming back around until then. Which, yeah, I mean, it would be kind of disappointing, but who knows?
It is a lot of work to just use something as a decoy for her.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Brave Sabo says, these past few years, Sanji has been getting a lot of hate in the fandom, and as a Sanji fan, it pains and bothers me quite a lot. Do you think Oda needs to do something about it?
Yes.
What was this?
Didn't
year?
he literally just do something about it for the last 3 years or 2 years?
That's what this has been. I feel like this has been a return to form for Sanji in a big way.
Very much.
Yeah.
I feel like this question is from 2 years ago.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Time traveling question.
Yeah. Cool. Maybe Reddit's servers just slowed down significantly, and it just took 2 years for it to post. Or a guy opens his computer up after 2 years and says, "Oh, I forgot to press send on that."
Or maybe people are upset because Sanji's not as horny anymore. They're like, "Oh, I thought he was supposed to be horny."
Actually, I have a Reddit level question that I'd like to ask, because we didn't talk about this in the manga recap, and I just want to say, Oda in the author comments this week says, strawberry picking. I'm shoving strawberries and ham into champagne and downing it. Yikes. Hold up, wait. Strawberries and what now? What the fuck?
Did Sanji suggest this recipe? Is this some secret
ham?
combination?
Like ham melon?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Might be good. I mean, they put Coca-Cola on ham.
I guarantee you, it is. That sounds awful.
I want to
first,
see.
it's mixed with champagne, so of course it's awful.
I'm gonna try this.
That sounds like a brunch.
It's a flute of champagne with a giant cocktail sword, and it's got strawberries and ham on it.
It sounds like a brunch. Like if
you just fold up the sandwich slice of ham and just stick it in the flute.
It's the classic version of rum ham.
I was thinking of cube.
So you put the ham in the champagne?
Yeah, it's a swimming pool of ham. It's a swimming pool of champagne. You dip the whole ham in there.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do it right.
Well, if anyone in Japan could afford the kind of extravagance of that, it's probably Oda.
Yeah, you need $500 million to be able to do something that crazy.
Strawberries and ham.
Real Pool has a list of this is kind of what I was talking about, the unresolved plot points. If we take the chapter at its face value and assume the arc is just about finished. Vin smokes. They neither recognized or fought Sanji nor got saved. Pudding's memory power and what did she do to Sanji? Sanji's recognition for making the cake that stopped Big Mom. Big Mom remembering her past. Nami keeping Zeus or versus Big Mom taking him back. With Moscato coming back, can Pedro come back? Sanji still didn't resolve any story plots for this whole ordeal to be called the year/arc of Sanji.
I think he kind of did save his family once. If you look at the actual wedding, the tea party itself. I mean, what they kind of do after the fact is not necessarily what his goal. Right, it wasn't necessarily his goal. You know, that scene with him standing on the table and freeing everyone, I think solved that one, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, I think. But yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of those are still up in the air.
Very true.
Farmer Fresh says, while reading BuzzFeed's 17 fun facts you never knew about your favorite anime article, I noticed that for fact number 9, they provided a link to an interview that you translated on your website. How does it feel to have contributed to a BuzzFeed listicle? We all know that BuzzFeed is some top-notch journalism.
That's actually true. It's funny to say that today when they just published this database of police misconduct in New York City. BuzzFeed does a lot of dumb shit too, but they actually do a lot of good stuff.
No, we've made it. We're on the listicles.
Oh yeah, I didn't even see that. It was that's a good article too. It was
now
our
they
interview
should,
with Sugita, who's now the second most recent editor for One Piece.
All right, now you guys can pay us.
Yeah, BuzzFeed.
Stupid Flanders says, hey there, One Piece podcast crew. I was thinking how there have been a lot of people who have stayed back to sacrifice themselves for the Straw Hat crew this arc, and it doesn't seem to fit Luffy's style to let others stay back and fight for him while he is safe. But that got me to thinking of Bon Clay. Seeing how Luffy never tried to go back and try to rescue him after the war, do you suppose Luffy just thinks that he is dead, or does Luffy think more along the lines of like, well, he's a friend, but he's no Nico Robin or Sanji type friend material? Your thoughts?
At that particular point, I think Luffy knew that there was no backward motion for him in that story arc unless he wanted to die. Luffy's first instinct is self-preservation. He will save other people's lives readily as well, but he will always make sure that he stays alive, I think. And also with Mr. 2, there was also, I think what ended up happening, that he went back to run the sort of Okama part of the prison. I could see that sort of being like, well, obviously he's not going to die. He has faith in his friend and he's going to be okay. So.
Right. But I think there was also a bigger sense of urgency in that situation so I don't think that was even the focus at that point. He had to do something that was time sensitive first.
Mm-hmm. And then there's no infiltrating the government's biggest prison twice, really. They'll see it coming this time.
Yeah, I feel like of all the characters, maybe Bon Clay would be one of the biggest surprises for me to have him reappear into the story, like as an active player, because it feels like this is the logical end point of his character arc, right? Like to wind up as the new queen of New Kama Land, like that just seems too perfect. Like, why would he ever leave? Anime Lover 1491 says, I decided to reread the Zoe arc, and it got me wondering, the team split into 4 groups. Does this mean that we are going to have mini arcs with Cat Viper finding Marco and seeing Momo converse with Zunisha before we get into the Wano arc? I doubt that. Yeah, I feel like, especially because they're not like I feel like it's already going to be unprecedented enough to be going to the Reverie, presumably without Luffy there, like without having the Straw Hats directly present, that I feel like mini arcs with Cat Viper and Momonosuke and no other Straw Hats like driving the action. I feel like that would be even crazier. If we see them, I imagine they would be cover stories, but more likely, I just think they'll show back up and we'll find out what the result of it was. That's probably how it'll go.
Yeah.
Especially since it's like, we've been kind of dragging our heels getting through this sequence of events to get to Wano. So the last thing he wants to do is delay it further. Getting towards the end here. Let's see. Renegade Pearl says, I got to be honest, I found the lack of impact from the cake really disappointing. It seems like that will be all with the cake, and despite all the time spent on it and Sanji's boasts about it knocking Big Mom unconscious, it just seems to be a dud. Almost like any cake would have worked just as good for bait and a distraction. It feels like all the buildup I've been expecting since I heard Greg mention his cake theory just went out with a sizzle instead of a bang. I'm also disappointed if we don't revisit the Levin smokes since last we saw them, since they were getting smoked, and the whole point of going to the wedding was to save them, so if they die, they won't, because Oda, it'd make the whole wedding and so on pointless. From the end of the wedding till now, okay, these are expectations, or I guess pessimistic expectations. 1, Pedro Peckham's and Pound will probably all live anyways. 2, the Sulong moment would have been hype no matter where it was. 3, Jinbei could have continued on with the journey. And 4, the Vinsmokes don't really change their opinions on Sanji post-wedding. So besides Luffy getting stronger, was there any need for not having the crew escape right after the wedding?
Germa's probably captured at this point, right?
They're on fire.
Their ship was.
I mean,
their country is on fire.
yeah, it's true.
I guess the reverie.
I mean, I agree with a lot of these. And I'll reserve my thoughts until the end. But
it sounds like to me. Sounds like somebody needs to be hammering down a sign that says "No fun allowed."
What?
Because I loved this arc, and if you can nitpick reasons to why stuff didn't need to happen, but I don't know. I thought that aside from the chase got a little long, but I don't know. I thought that was pretty good. Ended pretty good.
It hasn't ended yet.
No, I mean up to this point though. It's been exciting and there's been cool developments.
Right.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mostly agree with that too. But I'm just sort of
Vedge's cool ship.
Yeah, but there's so many unresolved things that I can't really say anything yet because it's not over yet.
But you also have to look at they're going to have to go back. So maybe some of the perspective we have now in the long term, it'll make
this isn't the end of season 4 of Lost. They're not going back.
So, no, they're not going back. But the Big Mom Pirates could pursue the Straw Hats.
Right. Eventually, he has to resolve stuff with Big Mom. So I'm just wondering, are you laying some groundwork for that later as well?
Yeah,
with the Giants, maybe that's where the other players would come in.
Yeah, I'm sure. At this point, he's got something planned out. There's, he's come along this far in the story. Plus, don't forget what he said in the Shonen Jump interview. He only has the best ideas left.
That's right.
Only the super awesome ones.
So no more Senor Pink flashbacks.
Damn.
We'll see. Last question on Reddit is Super Trooper 92. I just listened through the great read through, and I can't wait for future installments. It provided a whole new level of analysis to my all-time favorite manga. It inspired me to read through it again myself. Luffy just snuck into Impel Down. Yes. See, there you go. He went back. He's back in Impel Down. We were just talking about it. As I continue through my read-through, I am constantly surprised by the intelligence, both in combat and overall strategy, of the Straw Hats. Each of them have had a shining moment where their willpower, strategy, and brains saved the day. Who, in your opinion, is the smartest Straw Hat? I know Nami has been identified as a top intellect in the East Blue, but I am always most impressed with Sanji. His Mr. Prince adventures and antics on the Maxim have always been so cunning and made him my favorite character as he blends power and strategy in the suavest way, as long as his nose isn't bleeding. Right. And what foreshadowing by Oda calling Vince Smoke Sanji Mr. Prince.
Exactly. As far as smartest One Piece characters, I think Frankie would surprise a lot of people with how smart I think he is. I think he just likes to be goofy, as opposed to Zoro or Brook, who I feel are genuinely a little dim.
I mean, I think with everything Frankie learned in the time skip, he probably would.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
He has the most scientific knowledge.
But he likes to be a big goofy guy and sort of laugh around, but he doesn't. But he always has that knowledge there.
But Robin has the archaeological and historical knowledge.
Well, but also, she's been around as well. I think one of the things I remarked about about Robin when she first joined the crew is how much she knew about the world. That surprised even Nami, who, is a navigational wizard.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Robin would be my choice here.
Yeah,
they're all smart in different ways.
Yeah.
Which I think is the point of that crew, because Jinbei also has his strategy, the strategic.
Luffy's intelligence is like his intuition,
emotional intelligence.
That he can sense things without like being able to write a dissertation about them.
I feel like Zoro has a similar.
Luffy's emotionally empathic. I wouldn't necessarily call him emotionally intelligent.
So, as far as being worldly goes, Brook and Robin are probably at the top of that list. Sanji knows quite a bit about that. Luffy and Zoro are very alike in that they both tend to use their instinct, or Zoro has like a weird, like battle intelligence. Does that make any sense?
Right, but he sacrifices it in other places.
That's true. Obviously, Chopper has medical knowledge. Frankie is also quite worldly. I think it all depends on how old the characters are.
I mean, most of them are also naive in ways, so it's...
Of course.
I'd say except for Robin, maybe. Well, Robin had a lot of naivete going into her arc. Yeah, I mean, just at least emotionally. Okay, so is that it for Reddit, Steven?
Yep, that's all for Reddit.
Okay, so Ed, it's time to...
Peace the tweet.
What do we have this week on Twitter?
This one comes from Johnny24, who says, Ben Beckman is Shanks' first mate, but in Chapter 0, wasn't Yasopp the first one Shanks recruited? Isn't first mate the first one the captain recruits onto the crew? No, that's not how first mate
I don't think that's how that works. I think it's up to the captain.
Yeah, first mate is basically like a vice captain, or also the person that the captain trusts the most on the crew.
Don't be misled by the name. It doesn't go second mate, third mate, fourth mate after that.
Next question comes from Sniper of My Heart. It says, do you think we'll see Jinbei again this year or next year? I think we all hope this year.
Yeah.
We all hope sooner rather than later. And
I'll be more and more angry at this chapter the longer it takes.
Yeah.
What kind of monster doesn't like Jinbei? Don't at me on Twitter, please.
Next one comes from Druid, who says, with Marvel's Infinity War right around the corner, and the story being based around everybody fighting together against Thanos, is it possible Oda might use this movie as model for the Wano arc against Kaido? I think he's got the structure of that story pretty well planned out. Movie's not out yet.
Yeah.
But he could have read the fucking comic book.
I mean, that's true too.
He could very well, see the movie and then be like, "Oh, I liked this thing about it," and
that's true.
finds a ways. He does that all the time. It's always a kind of weekly, what will surprise me, coming up with.
I can see there being a reference obliquely to it, as opposed to structure similarly or other things.
But I think he did that with Game of Thrones, where it's not like he copied the plots from it, but he added kind of imagery or
the feeling of it. It's got the gist,
right?
The je ne sais quoi. Next one comes from Ghost Starch, who says, I think that Daifuku's genie is a homie made from his own soul, which is why the genie is sentient. Strong people make strong homies, as stated by Mama in this chapter. Makes sense, since the puff puff fruit user should only produce a smoke-like substance.
That would be smoker.
So do we know what Daifuku's devil fruit power is exactly?
The lamp fruit.
It's a lamp fruit.
Okay.
It makes a genie. That's the thing that he
Okay,
does.
so this person has a faulty premise then, we're saying.
In my opinion, yes.
Probably. Yeah.
Because it isn't the smoke fruit, it's the lamp fruit, like you said. Puff puff fruit, I think. Anyway, Dark King Zoro, our very own Brian Newton, friend of the show, frequent guest, says, "Damn it, Jinbei, stick with the crew already. This and the old switcheroo really soured me on this chapter." So, Brian, you should be on the show sometime soon and talk about that.
You apparently aren't the only one.
Yeah.
And maybe yeah. Well, all right, next one comes from Yintab F, who says, "After reading the chapter, I went and checked if you could see Wadatsumi's hand at the end of last chapter, but you can't. But I noticed that the final words were down the hatch. You think this is a hint to what happened to the Straw Hats or just a coincidence?"
Steven?
Oh, because they went into Wadatsumi's mouth.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey.
That's pretty funny. No, I mean, I think I used for down the hatch. That was like the gochiso samadeshita phrase in Japanese, which is what you say after a meal. Like people often translate it as thanks for the meal.
Well, I mean, that's kind of how Wadatsumi eats the Sunny.
Yeah, well, yeah, but he doesn't like literally eat it. He doesn't consider it a meal. So having it phrased as down the hatch kind of works a little better for that kind of coincidental lining up. But that is kind of funny.
Watadakimasu.
What? Wadadakimasu.
Yeah.
All right, last one comes from Super Ninja Clone, who says, "As Lenlin is headed to Cacao, where Pudding is residing, could we finally get the truth revealed about who really made the cake and perhaps the orphan past? Shu has to drop with the memory powers, surely." We've been grappling with that question all episode.
Yeah, I don't know.
And don't call me Shirley.
Oh.
Okay, I guess we'll end in an airplane reference. Unless you guys have any other thoughts on that.
Picked the wrong day to stop huffing glue.
Okay,
Yep.
so why don't we go into the round off and do a little bit of trivia? You guys ready?
All right.
You're like One Piece arcs about gladiators, Billy?
Did you ever see
Because
a
you
grown man
love
naked?
Dressrosa. This has been the One Piece Podcast, episode 515 for the week of Monday, April 16th. Good episode today, as usual. We have chapter 902 for you next week, and I think, is it 832 and 33? I think are the episodes we have next week in the anime when Sam is back. Of course, piece together and all that next week as well, so look forward to that. We have a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipe, and we'll talk about that more as it starts happening. As we've mentioned at the top of the show, please support us on Patreon at patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast. How could the good people contact you guys out there? Kelly?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Karuri.
Steven?
You may follow me on Twitter at Translatosaurus.
Alex?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at dude! All one word. Please listen to Toho Yaro, the podcast that I do with Joey Weiser and Scott Dryman about Japanese film. Our latest episode is Female Prisoner 701 Scorpion, starring Meiko Kaji. And
You have a contest for that, right?
That's right. If you listen to the episode, you have a chance to win Unchained Melody, a Meiko Kaji book published by Arrow Films. And check that out. We're at Toho Yaro on Twitter, and we are also on the Maji Media Network. So check us out in the podcatcher of your choice. Also, a fun Twitter account to follow is Weeb Simpsons. It's great. I'm enjoying it.
It's a fun account.
It is
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
very fun.
Ed, how could the good people out there contact us?
Well, you are Zach_Logan on Twitter. I'm Edward E. One Piece. Podcast can be found at onepiecepodcast.com, twitter.com, youtube.com, and facebook.com/One Piece Podcast. One Piece Podcast is our Skype name. OnePiecePodcast@gmail.com is our email address. Reddit.com/r/One Piece Podcast. That's our subreddit. You can leave us some piece together there. And please support us, patreon.com/One Piece Podcast. Get access to all of our back catalog. It's all up there, and special outtakes episodes. And
new stuff coming this week.
Right? You can subscribe on SoundCloud, subscribe on Google Play, subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. Call us on our phone number.
That phone number is 347-497-MAJI.
Maji.
That phone number again is 347-497-6254. Call anytime.
Anytime.
With your questions, comments, and theories, and ways back from Veggie Island. Thank you guys for coming on the show. We do have some trivia, so let's get into that. For those who don't know how we play trivia, I ask everyone here to name characters in a category. That's all they have to do. If they name the same one that has been named before, if they get one wrong, or if they can't think of one, they are out. The person at the end gets a donut. Right now, I believe I owe Steven, what is it, 6.5 donuts next time I see you? And you have to eat them all in one sitting. That's
just like katakuri.
Just
No
like
problem.
katakuri. So to celebrate the continuing end of Whole Cake Island, as it's slowly been coming to a conclusion, this one's going to be a little shorter probably than usual. Please name all the named homies in this arc, one of our favorite parts of this arc. So we're going to go in the order that we did the manga recaps. It's going to be Kelly, Alex, Steven, and Ed. So you guys ready?
Sure.
Now, named homies in this arc. Kelly.
Okay.
Zeus.
Yep. Alex.
Napoleon.
Steven.
Prometheus.
Ed.
Kingbaum.
Kelly.
Nitro the Jelly.
Alex.
Rabian.
Steven.
Lady Tree.
Yeah. I'm happy that one got named. Ed.
Randolph.
Yep. Kelly.
Um,
This is where we get to the really hard ones. There's only 4 left.
oh man.
4.
3 seconds.
I think I'm out. That's all I have.
You were the beginning of the round, right? So Kelly. Okay, so someone else has to get it. It's sorry, Alex.
Green tea?
Wow.
Does that count?
Wow.
Count as a name.
I don't think that's a name. We don't know his name. We just know that's what he says.
Oh, fuck
Right,
me.
he hasn't been named.
Sorry, Alex. Steven. You have to just name any.
Zach, this quiz sucks.
It's a tough one, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Steve. Steven.
3 seconds.
I don't know. The little frog.
Ed, if you name any, you win.
You want me to name the one that was in this chapter?
Yeah.
The Big Mom Shantae.
Oh,
Does that count?
No,
That's
it
not what
counts,
it's
but
called,
that's
you
not the
idiot.
name of it.
You idiot,
Yeah.
that's not what it's called.
What's it called?
Oh, you're an idiot. It's the Queen Mama Shantae.
Ah, fuck. It was the ship. I was right.
I'll give it to Ed. Ed, can you name any other? There's one that's like kind of there that you should be getting. He was in, I think, a couple chapters ago. If you could, anyone.
Oh, is it the Gentleman Crocodile?
Yeah. What's his name in the? What's Steven's name? For
Yeah,
it?
that's mine. No.
I thought it was just Gentleman Crocodile.
No.
No.
Gentle Croc?
No. He's a fancy croc.
Oh.
Do you know? That's not his name. I'm
No,
giving
that
you a hint.
was
Steven,
No,
you
I
wanna tell
don't.
him?
I clearly don't know his name.
is the aristocrat.
Yeah. Okay. The one big one, and it's a real tricky one that you're missing here. Pandora. Do you guys remember what Pandora is?
Oh, the one who gets her face cut out by.
Nope, that is the door one. We don't have a name for that. It's not Pandora. That's funny, but no. Pandora.
This must be an anime thing.
Nope, it is Mother Carmel's version of Prometheus.
Shit. Okay, that's a good one. That's really
good. Yeah, that's a good.
Thank you.
That's a good secret answer. I was ready to call bullshit on that, but that's pretty good.
The last one I would take would be Candy Sea Slug, but that's One Piece Wiki says that's one. I would probably be pretty hesitant to take that.
No, that's not named.
Yeah, I agree that's not a specific name. So Pandora was the one we were missing, and Aristocroc.
Mm-hmm. So is Aristocroc a homie?
Aristocroc, according to One Piece Wiki, I guess. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, Ed, I think, got the one.
Queen Mama Chante.
Yeah.
If Randolph is a homie, then I feel like we have to say that.
Agreed.
Aristocroc.
That's true.
I do love Aristocroc. Okay, so that's gonna do it. We're going.
The Aristocrat.
Yeah.
We're gonna be back next week with an all new episode. Please keep an eye on OnePiecePodcast.com and all our social media for updates and news and more as the week continues. So that's gonna do it. My name is Zach.
My name is Ed.
My name is Alex.
We'll see you next week, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Goodbye. Being a real Umi bozo. Call back.